Okay, hi everybody. Happy Monday. It is Monday, I was going to say March, oh my goodness. May 29th. Today is actually Memorial Day here in the United States. So, shout out to all those who have served, past and present, and all those that we've lost. So, today I am going to work on some Father's Day cards. So, welcome. Welcome to Michelle's Stamp and Craft Corner. I am Michelle. And you can follow my Facebook page and follow all along with us crafting and creating and all that fun stuff. So today what I'm going to be working on is a Father's Day card. And I haven't planned it out yet. A lot of my customers constantly ask me, how long does it take to make a card? And what do you do? And how do you go about creating and thinking? So I figured I would have you just follow me today and do that. So as you can see here, I have chosen the He's All That stamp set, and it also comes with the dies. Now your dies will come separately, or you can bundle them together depending on what the sale is. And this one has a bunch of sayings that I really like. I also like it has like the classic cars, the little minivan bus, and some other things. And then this also has the dies. Whoops. And you can see it has matching dies to help cut out some of the pieces. And this is actually in our catalog. We have a new catalog that started in May. This is the annual catalog. And this set is in the new catalog on page 83. And like I said, it does coordinate with All That Dies stamp set, which is on page 162. I'm also going to be using some DSP, which we call Designer Series paper, that I have on hand. And I also grabbed my scraps of white, another big piece of white, and then I grabbed a pack of my blue paper, which can't go wrong with some blueberry bushel. So I'm going to grab one of those, and I'm just going to walk you step by step through what I normally do when I create a card. Okay, so let me get all this out of the way. Grab my paper trimmer. Make a little bit more room here. My desk is a little messy today. Sorry about that. And then that just adjusted my camera. I'm trying to find a new setup here that gives me a little bit more space so that you guys can see a little bit better. So I think that's pretty good. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 8.5 by 11 cardstock, and I am going to put this in here, and I'm going to put it in so it is long ways or horizontal. This would be portrait, so horizontally. And I'm going to slide this into 5.5, close it. And on my trimmer, I do have two, which you cannot see. I do have two blades. I'm not going to use this lighter one. I am going to use this darker one, which is my cutting one. And then this lighter one here, I'm going to put this back in at 4.25. It's so funny. Every time I measure now, I'm like, oh, you know, I'm so good at measuring. I was not able to measure anything until I started crafting. Isn't that silly? I was so bad at it. So I'm going to use this one. This is my scoring blade. I'm just going to run that through a couple of times, and that is actually going to give me a crease here that I can fold my card. I'm going to take out my bone folder. Give that a good crease. All right, and this is the base of my card. Now, for those of you that like to do things a little differently, you could also take your paper, 8.5 by 11, hold it on the portrait side, line it up at 4.25, cut it, and then you can turn it to 5.5 and use that paper scorer, and then you have a card that will go like this. So it's really your preference and your choice. You can have one that opens this way, or you can have one that opens this way. I think today we're going to go with this one just to be a little different. So So let me put that to the side. And the first thing I'm going to want to do is I'm going to take my paper, my white paper. It's a very thick piece. And the one other thing about the Stampin' Up! Paper is that it is a little bit thicker. And it comes in a package of paper like this. And I believe you get 40 sheets of the white. So this is our basic white. So I'm going to put this in. And I'm going to make it 1/4 of an inch smaller all the way around. So I'm going to cut it by 4. And then I'm going to cut it by 5 1/4. Because my card is 5 1/2 by 4 1/4. So then this gives you an inside piece. I always like to put a piece of white on the inside for the darker colors, and then this also now gives me some scrap that I can play with on the front. Okay, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some Designer Series paper, and I save all my scraps, as you can see. So I'm going to pull this piece out, and now this is where I usually decide what I like better. Do I want the lighthouses, or do I want... I'm not really liking any of those right now. And this is what I usually do when making a card. I will go through and pick out what paper that I like and play with it, and I think I like that, yes. So slip these back in here. The nice thing about Stampin' Up! Is all of their papers and their colors coordinate, and even if something does retire, those of us that are hobbyists have tons of paper to play with and use. I actually started become out as a demonstrator, as a hobbyist demonstrator, meaning that I just did it for me. I actually started by going to a friend's workshop. She knew a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and she invited me. And I've always had crafting in my blood. My mother was a huge crafter. My mother's best friend, her and, you know, the two of them used to do all kinds of craft fairs and things like that. So it was actually my mother's best friend's daughter who invited me to a workshop, and I wound up spending a ton of money. And after going to a few workshops and having a couple of my own, the Stampin' Up! Demonstrator was like, why don't you just become a demonstrator, even if it's just a hobbyist? So I did, and then I started making things, and some of my friends got interested, and next thing I know, I've been doing this for quite a while now. So that's how I actually got into Stampin' Up! And now I've kind of branched out into, you know, cards and invitations and things like that. But I do love just making a simple card. So we have our card. We're going to actually glue our white piece in. I don't know why I went on that tangent. Sorry, but it gives you a little bit background as to how I became a demonstrator. And then another funny little tidbit is I was always a adhesive girl when it came to double-sided tape. Okay, and I swore by this stuff. And I did not like using the liquid glue. And it wasn't until probably about, I don't know, a year ago that I started using the liquid glue, because it gives you a little bit more flexibility when putting down your papers and things like that. Because with the double adhesive or the double-sided tape, you can't move it around. But with liquid glue, you can obviously move it around a little bit. If it's not straight, you have a little bit more play or give with it. So shout out to liquid glue. So you can see I have a little bit more flexibility moving it around, getting it just where I like it, and then just give that a second to dry inside and out. I still use my adhesive, you know, my double-sided tape, but I have become a fan of liquid glue lately too. All right, so we have our basic card ready to go. So now we're going to pull out our stamp set, and we're going to decide what we want to use. Now here's my stamp set, Now, I like to sometimes get a little creative, especially with the mail cards, and usually add a little bit of dimension, because I always feel like masking cards are sometimes really hard to create with, or make, I should say. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some dimension to it by adding, actually, you know what? Let's hold off and wait on that. I have another idea. And this is basically how I go through. I let my kids use my stamps at school, and some of them are not sticky anymore. The stamps come with a sticky sticker that you can just put in there so they don't fall off. And then I add the magnetic piece of magnetic paper, I guess you could say, so my dies don't fall off, and I keep them all together, and the kids kind of got a little messy, but that's okay. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out my wishing you a happy Father's Day, because I definitely think we want to have that on there. And then what other ones do I want? Definitely we could say to the man, oops, to the man who does everything. Put that on the front. So I'm just taking my acrylic blocks, putting my stamp right on there. I am going to, since I use the Berry Bushel cardstock, I am going to pull out my stamp pad. That's Blueberry Bushel, sorry. All right, and I'm going to see what I can create. Now I have that scrap piece of paper here. So I'm just going to make sure this is straight. My dog Charlie is underneath my feet. He's sleeping and snoring, so I hope you can't hear him. So I'm going to ink that up, and I'm going to, that looks good. Now, let me see. I'm going to trim that a little bit. So I'm actually, what I'm thinking is I'm thinking of putting some ribbon around this. And again, I haven't, I don't have a plan in mind with this card. So we're going to kind of go on the fly. Make that a little bit even. I'm also the girl who can't cut a straight line with a ruler and a pair of scissors. So we love the paper trimmer. Okay, so that's going to go there. And now I think what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to take my ribbon and I am going to I'm sorry, I'm just reading a comment that somebody's watching me from Alaska. That's so cool. Well, hello from Alaska. Hello from New York. I always get a kick out of that. It's amazing how the internet just brings everybody together, doesn't it? That's so cool. All right, so what I'm going to do is I think I am going to just give it, I want to do one and then or do I want to do two? I think I'm going to do two. So what I'm going to do is, and again, like I said, the fun part about this is you can kind of control what you want to do. I think I'm going to do two of these. Okay, so I'm going to take this and I'm going to turn it over. And I'm going to grab my adhesive. Put a little adhesive on the back of that. Fold these little tabs in. Give it a little dimension there. I'm going to do the same thing again. Fold those in. Fold those in. Okay, make sure that this is a little crooked, so let's pull that apart. There you go. Now there's this little thing that says number 1. I think I'm going to put it right on there. So let me grab one of my little stamps. I love the clear acrylic because you can actually see where you're stamping. It would help if I had a piece of paper to stamp on. This is where my scraps come in too, so I don't have to use a whole nother piece of white. I'm just going to grab a piece of white scrap. And I'm going to... Now when you're stamping, you don't want to rock your stamp just clear down and up. I'm also going to grab a punch. I always laugh at those demonstrators that have to get up and go get something. Well, I just did that. Sorry about that. I want to see if any of these fit. This punch is actually retired. And it's actually stuck. There we go. Let's see if this will... I love the punches because you don't have to cut anything out. I'm not a very... Like I said, I can't draw a straight line with a ruler and a pair of scissors, or cut a straight line. But with the punches and the dies, it's great because you can cut them out. So now I have a little thing there. I'm going to use Stampin' Dimensionals. Dimensionals are just these little foam pieces. I'm going to put it right on the back of that. Kind of gives it a little bit of lift and dimension, hence the word dimensional. So we can go like that. And then let's pop this whole thing up, actually. Put some dimensionals and then one in the center. I'm going to take the backings off. Can use your fingers. I know some people also like to use their paper piercing tool, which is this little guy here. It has a pointy end on the other side that you can pull it off, and then it also has a little bit of clay to help pick things up. Okay, let's get that out of the way. Bring our card back in. Now, I'm actually thinking, do I want to add more ribbon to make this a little bit... I think I am. I think I like that. Alright, so I'm going to grab 2 pieces this time. And I'm going to do the same thing. And then with these lines now, I'm going to actually use those lines to help make sure this is straight. Okay, flip that over. Tuck those little pieces in, and I'll show you a way to hide those later. Okay, and then I'm actually, oh, still didn't get straight. Whoops. Okay, I'm just, there we go, that's better. Move my ink out of the way so I don't get full of ink. I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom here. Now, you know, you can also run a piece of adhesive or a glue dot on the middle of this to help keep it in place. And then I can turn it over. Do the same thing, a little adhesive on both sides. Tuck those in. Now, you don't have to leave them as long as I did, but, and again, I guess, well, let's see. My ribbon just does not want to go straight today. There we go. Is that better? Yep, there we go. Okay, let's try that and see how that goes. Then I can put this right on here. That's kind of cute. I kind of like it. All right, so let me show you how to hide that. So we actually, we're going to do the same thing. So we're going to take a piece of our paper that we had, and I'm going to cut another 4 by 5 1/4 strip. Let me do it this way for now. Guess it doesn't matter. All right, 4 by 5 1/4. And we're going to hide that as well with that piece. I'm going to get my liquid glue. And I am going to just add some liquid glue. You don't need a lot, just a little bit. And then we're going to do the same thing we just did here. And there. So when you could decorate the inside if you wanted to, or you could write a nice message, maybe put a picture of you and your dad or your kid and, grandpa. Then what we're going to do is we're going to grab our ink again, and let's put a saying inside. Wishing you a happy Father's Day. Move that out of the way so I don't get ink all over me. Take our paper trimmer. And I mean, you could get as elaborate as you want with card making. There's so many different punches and dies and decorative scissors and all kinds of things. So I'm just going to cut this so I can do it up here so you guys can see actually. I'm just kind of trimming this down so there's maybe, I don't know, 1/8, maybe it's 1/4. Let's see, how big is it? It's about I don't know, 1/8 or so inch all the way around. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to go take one of those scrap pieces of blue, and I'm actually going to, I think my dispenser is getting low on adhesive. All right, I'm going to actually take it, and I'm going to do the same thing I just did, leave a little border around the edge, and then I'm going to cut it. Oh, I'm going to have to cut that one a little bit more. Oh, I'm going to have to cut that one a little more too. Let's see. Is that better? Yep, that's better. Let's cut this just a little bit. There you go. We're going to take that out of there. I'm going to take our saying and flip this here. I'm also going to use some dimensionals. Pop those up. I always like to put a dimensional in the center too, so it doesn't kind of look like it's sagging. Can put that there. And then I just realized there's a little bit, I don't even know if you can see it, there's a little bit of dirt or smudge on the paper. So what I'm gonna do is actually gonna take my number 1 and stamp over it. Ah, see, this is why you have to be careful. Now, I'm gonna show you how we're gonna fix that. This extra foam, or I guess rubber around the circle, can be trimmed so you don't have that issue, but we're gonna fix it, so hold on. I'm going to take it and stamp it on a piece of, again, not having so much pressure will help that. I'm going to cut this out. And hopefully that'll cover my mistake, which it will not. So let's take a larger circle. Will this fit? Scrap of blue. Okay. Take this and we'll put some adhesive on the back of it. And put that on there. Center that little circle on the blue piece. Okay, and then we'll actually put that on the card, and it covers up our mistake. I'm going to use a little bit of tear and tape. It's a little bit holder strong so it doesn't come off. I'll put that on the back. Here's a great time for me to use my paper piercing tool to just lift that little paper up. And I'm going to cover my mistake. And it actually gives it a little bit of dimension to the card. These little squares, they're rubber. They erase the glue. So any little extra glue that's on there comes right off. Love these things. You can get these in the dollar store. They're great. All right. And there you have it. And then the last thing that I usually do is I do have a stamp that says handmade by Michelle. And I usually put that on the back of my cards. And there you have it. To the man who does everything, number 1, wishing you a happy Father's Day. You're all set. So thanks for joining me today. I appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, like, share, and comment below. And I hope everybody out there has the rest of Memorial Day. And we'll see you all soon. Take care. Bye.